A very warm welcome. My name's Federico Re and this is InspireTalkTV. And joining me today is a very, very distinguished guest. I'm here in his flagship store in Sydney. His name is Napoleon Perdis. How are you, Napoleon?
Very well. Good to be with you.
It's an absolute pleasure and honour to have you here today, or for me to be in your store. Now, you've got a number of titles or nicknames, perhaps, as far as who you are and what you do. Perhaps you're known as a makeup artist, Cosmetic Guru, but maybe I'd like to refer to you also as an entrepreneur, because looking at your track record of success over your 30 years of business background, certainly you have achieved a lot. So I guess I really want to dig deep into your past and the journey you've taken as an artist and as an entrepreneur. So tell us a little bit about your earlier years with a particular focus around family and how that's kind of got you started in the first place.
Look, you know, growing up, being brought up, I should say, as an immigrant's son in Australia, you know, was never going to be an easy journey, because ultimately, you know, there was the reason why immigrants left Southern Europe at that point in time was because they needed to seek a better life, right? But then in order to seek a better life, they have to start at certain levels and progress their way through. It's just not an automatic entry. So, you know, coming from the western suburbs of Sydney, there was a dream to always just, you know, build a business, but you just don't know how much strength you have around that. Well, fortunately, Australia experienced enormous evolution and growth, you know, and a lot of it was due to a lot of the Southern European immigrants that came into this country at that period of time, because I'm of that generation born, you know, of the people that came in the 50s, you know, and there was enormous new Australia created. So by the time I was ready to sort of start in the business, Australia was a very evolved, sophisticated marketplace. So that helped. The second thing that helped is that when you are brought up with the value of work, you never fear it. And you never fear having to take a chance, because you know if a river's flowing down and you're always swimming up, at some stage you're going to go up. You know what I mean? So because it's about effort and energy, and you just got to keep putting that energy no matter how the river is flowing. You know, unless there's avalanches, but you know there's not. You know, there's challenges. So the family spirit around that and the family ethic of work allowed me to just keep focusing and swimming against whatever any tide happened, and then there was the very conscious decision following university made, you know, and following a very small stint in advertising, made to kind of enter into the world of makeup. And the point of entry was that we were able to cut through with manufacturing with one of the top 5 manufacturers in the world. One of them is actually Greek origin, one of the owners. And, you know, he gave me some assistance in being able to sort of develop product. And I was able to then bring it into Australia and launch in a flagship environment. Sydney was hot at the time, as in hot in trend globally, as Australia still continues to be in many ways. It's often known as the kangaroo mafia, you know, internationally. And, you know, we opened up on Oxford Street, Paddington, you know, with family. I mean, even my dad's staff from his store were there unpacking product at the time. And, you know, when you've got an infrastructure around you and you don't just spend, but you focus, you build. You know, it's actually a really simple formula.
Yes.
The rest is strategic, and the rest is, you know, knowing how to create opportunities or actually take opportunities to another level. And that's kind of, you know, what has been really important for those early stages.
So it's very much been a family affair, hasn't it? And certainly you've been able to leverage on that opportunity and the support you've had from family, and also leveraging on Greek heritage. So obviously with Greek heritage, there's this philosophy, there's culture, and there's a particular mindset, like you've described, of hard work and perseverance, also entrepreneurial mindset. So in terms of that entrepreneurial spirit in you and in your family, describe that sort of mindset.
You know, entrepreneurial spirit is much more than just, you know, the mindset. A lot of people, this is what I say a lot of the young people coming to the Makeup Academy. You can have the mindset, but you've got to then have the perseverance. You've got to have the absolute focus. You know, lots of people go, I'm going to be an entrepreneur, I'm going to be, you know, wealthy, I'm going to create business. Lots of people go, I'm going to be successful. Very few people come through the filter funnel. You know, because at the end of the day, there has to be a relentless, continual obligation to a focus. There has to be a relentless, continual obligation to a strategy. There has to be a relentless, continual obligation to giving up parts of your life to develop the entrepreneurial side or the business. And that's everything from personal life to family life to, you know, health sometimes. Not that you want to jeopardize your health, but, you know, lots of people take 2 or 3 hours of, a week to the gym. You know, I didn't have time for many years to do that, you know. So, you know, later you have to go back and address those things. But entrepreneurial spirit and entrepreneurialism, you know, can be something that family says to you, you need to do or have it in you, but you then have to kind of really stay focused, you know, and really stay on track to kind of see it through. It doesn't just happen because you think or believe or you've been brought up in it. You actually need to, and it's not just a nurture, it's actually a relentless focus and a relentless revisit to the goals and to your strategy.
I can relate well to all that.
Yeah.
So your success as an entrepreneur, businessman is evidential. Do you consider yourself more as an artist nowadays or more as an entrepreneur per se?
I think that if I stopped considering myself as an artist, I wouldn't be in business. I think to be in business and create, that's what I said, that's what I feel when I was living in America, that if you just develop plans in a marketing boardroom, they never work. They have to be driven by passion and art. And even the art of living, you know, even the art of like just, you know, wanting to communicate, the art of just being human and understanding humanity. You know, I always refer to the face as the frame for life. So when I look at the face as the frame for life, you know, for people, I want to go into a sense of, you know, discovery and then create DNA around, you know, their frame for life and then work the product. The product is a mere catalyst for what she wants to ultimately be, you know, so, and it's my job to kind of probe and interpret that frame for life. So if I stop being an artist and working on trying to understand people's frame for life, then I'm not just interested in the business. That's boring.
So obviously there's been a lot of creativity, a lot of innovation. How does that manifest itself on a day-to-day amongst your people as well?
Look, you know, the one thing I've sort of learned over the years that manifesting amongst the teams is probably the most difficult challenge. When you're a smaller team, it's much more controllable. Along the way, I think it's important now that I've understood that concept even more to create much more kind of respect and inspect. You've got to respect, you know, your DNA in order to have the respect then from the team, and then you have to inspect the team to make sure that they're doing it.
Sure.
And I think that those two concepts are critical now in creating the DNA translation across the team. And look, you're always going to have people be Hollywood Harry and think they're going to give you their interpretation. But I always just say, if you've got a great interpretation, go open up your own business. But while you're at Napoleon Perdis, you need to kind of stick to this. But that's also difficult in Australia because the employee, you know, labour pool here is still limited. Like, we're very much, as a company, you know, wanting to encourage diversity across all platforms. I know I get quoted only for the one area of diversity, but across all platforms, including diversifying the employee labour pool and opening it up further.
Sure.
Because Australia is such a virginal marketplace in many ways, you know, if we just open up labour.
Absolutely. You refer to the brand DNA, or it's probably what we call it together. How does that help you distinguish yourself from other competitors in the marketplace, considering your industry is very saturated?
Do you think cosmetics is saturated?
As much as perhaps fashion would be, or thereabouts. So it's one of the top, most saturated industries for sure.
I mean, for 7 billion people on the planet, I think the industry still has enormous amount of growth. I think it might be saturated in, for example, lipstick, but I mean, there's many categories that are still left to explore, and including in the skin, bath and body, including like, you know, eye category, including delivery systems, including new technology, all of that. If you're talking about saturation as far as consumer choice, it is definitely increased. I don't think we're quite at the fashion level yet. If you're just talking about the lipstick factor and eyeshadow factor alone, then yes, I agree with you, there is saturation. Essentially, the DNA of Napoleon Perdis is education, is that Napoleon Perdis is a mere catalyst for translation to what she wants in her day-to-day life, whether it's event, day-to-day shopping, day-to-day feel-good, or, you know, going out, you know, whatever the scenario. So we're an interpreter and we're a catalyst and we are education-based. And then we like to have a voice of, you know, of delivery. So how do you deliver it on the face? How do you apply it? How do you work it? But we don't like to dictate that. We like that to be involved with our customer. So the experiential, is stronger than just buy off the shelf because this product has been promoted. And I think that those things, while it's a family business, will remain strong. There's a new voice within Perdis, coming for Gen Z and millennials. It's not just millennials, everyone talks about this, Gen Z as well. There's a great voice, within the family and my wife and just, within the family for, women that are celebrating youth at all levels from, 40 plus. And, a woman 40 today is really today's 25-year-old, you know what I mean?
Sure.
And a woman is 50 is today's 30-year-old. So there's a big celebration of youth thinking rather than just youth pushing culture.
So it's more than a glamorous product, and obviously it's founded on a deep ethos. And looking at technology, looking at education, how does that assist your brand, your business growing further to the next level?
Look, I think the next level for makeup will be how it's delivered onto the face. I think that women are going to want it to be faster. They're going to want it to be anti-aging inclusive. They're going to want it to be a very personal trainer. It's almost like a one and the same, like a holy trinity, of makeup and delivery, because they're going to want performance, beauty, and natural at the same time. And that's going to be through technology and delivery, and that's happening every day. Sure. And it's happening across all sectors, but definitely with the makeup sector as well. So
if I'm an inspiring entrepreneur looking at the future of your industry, how would I be using technology to grow the business, and social media for that matter?
I mean, with technology, we definitely want to look at how a product will be delivered onto the face a lot more effectively. And that we meet that holy trinity of natural and beauty and youth and, quick and easy, all in the one, So I think that if you look at some of the things we've done with, say, our spray foundations, aerosols were not really available with colour pigment very easily, a few years ago. Now they are. If we look at solid, encapsulating ingredients that then by press of a hand or heat release into liquid and absorbed micro through the body and through the skin, that's amazing. And as we increase, with all sorts of different research in technology, we're going to be able to deliver it better for the customer. We're going to be able to also allow her to perform better with it, so she achieves and interprets her life as she wants to.
Sure. One of the successes of Napoleon is your Makeup Academy, which is all about providing education. And in particular, how does that work for women in terms of empowering women and I suppose, inspiring women?
So the Makeup Academy starts with a major course to become a makeup artist. But there are modules across the country that women can do in a 1 to 2 hour slot basis with step-by-step instructionals. And these days it's as easy as recording it on their cell phone as well. There's major campaigns now just shot on a cell phone. So we actually encourage that along the way. That's where the advent of social media becomes more interesting than just looking at influencers. Each customer is the influencer rather than just this we sort of lived through this period which is sort of changing of influencers, but really it's gone back to now the empowerment of the customer. Each customer, even if he's got 10 followers, is the influencer. So the Academy forms the base to be able to create consistency and delivery of DNA.
Absolutely. Excellent. So in terms of how your business competes with international markets, how does your organisation match to other major rivals internationally speaking?
Look, in the United States, the one thing that was proven is when we got to Bergdorf and Neiman's and Nordstrom is that we're a total global brand. You just have to have deep pockets to buy the customer. And our pockets were not deep enough, for long-term, sustenance outside our own, home market. So how does it compare to international brands? There are things that are similar. So we have lipsticks, and then there are things that are specific to our DNA, such as the interpretation, which is much more, cottage family, controlled across our staff base and our stores than just a multinational. There is, technology that we can compete with because manufacturing has gone contract, and we can now order at quantities that we can afford to buy and still have technology, because technology has become cheaper and more available, to when, it's not that cheap that you need to buy it at like a 10 quantities only, but at the quantities of our business size, we can now afford technology for the customer. So therefore it can be much more customized and much more malleable and much more agile for her. And that's kind of our advantage to the international kind of major brands. As far as competing with them internationally, Australia's in the top 10 cosmetics markets in the world, so I'm very happy, being back home and focusing on the Australian marketplace. I'm very happy exploring beyond, greater suburban and great metropolitan areas to regional and all sorts of empowerment levels across Australia. 38% of Australia lives in regional anyway. It's almost 40%. That's a big proportion of Australia. We're a big country. I'm very interested in exploring, minorities, but also exploring, different skin color and different, age groups and minorities, in terms of like there's more now darker skin, there's more Asian skin, and they're growing minorities, but enormously influential. So we are building private areas out for our Islamic community, and things like that. So they're things that multinationals can't just do instantly, but can we take it to compete globally? No, because you need very deep pockets, but we are competing very well in Australia.
Sure, and in terms of collaborating with other parties, what is your philosophy to that?
We collaborate on an education point of view, so we collaborate on, like with Qantas, we collaborate educating their looks for them. We collaborate on redemptions with, people like Commonwealth Bank, American Express. We do those sort of collaborations. We do fashion collaborations to keep trend awareness. We do collaborations with malls to ensure that we're there on a basic level because we're a homegrown brand. We do collaborations with, makeup artists across our academy for education. So my view is that a collaboration just has to be right for the DNA of the brand. You shouldn't just do it for the sake of doing it.
Sure. Given that you're an influential leader in Australia, obviously an iconic brand, what in your powers potentially would you do to change Australia in terms of retail and the position it has, competitively speaking?
If I could change a couple of things in Australia, the only thing I would change is nothing in the country. I would just try and change that the buyers that are buying makeup on the retail and the malls that are accepting retail, I would just push them to become a little bit more street savvy. The culture, you don't develop it in a boardroom, it comes from the street. The skateboard scene, the basketball scene, the boxing scene, the music scene. The energy and the artistic expression is driven from the street. By the time it becomes commercially valuable, you've already diluted it. I would encourage Australia having a bigger finger on the pulse with the street from a kind of bias perspective. The customer is there and they already know that. It's now has to be allowed for them to be experienced in malls. And I would encourage greater, street, location, community spirit of retailing rather than just concentrated malls.
So business leaders need to be more street savvy, right?
I think so.
Great.
Yeah.
Last question, Napoleon. What is your quote or favourite quote or philosophy to business and to life?
To business and to?
Life in general.
A world full of beautiful people is always more beautiful.
Great. Well, thanks for joining us, Napoleon.
Thank you very much. Absolutely. Great. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.